Hello friends, in our previous session we have already started with this topic called as sampling. In that session we have seen what sampling is, what are the different types of sampling, why sampling is needed, and we have also learned a very important theorem called as the central limit theorem. In this session we are going to see some examples based on central limit theorem. So students, I welcome you all to this channel, Pankaj Lade. Let's begin with our session. In this session we are entirely going to cover all the questions which are based on central limit theorem. So what I want you to do is you first watch the previous session of central limit theorem of sampling so that it becomes very easy for you to understand our today's session, this session. Now, the question that is written on the board is something like this. We are going to make use of the central limit theorem to solve some of the questions here. The question goes like this. Consider the lifespan of persons as a random variable. So it is told to us that the lifespan of the persons is a random variable, isn't it? So if I denote the lifespan of a person by capital letter X, so I can say X is a random variable and the mean is given to us as 80. The mean of those the lifespan is given to us as 80. Now try and understand, the data that is given to us belongs to the population. When you read the entire question properly, it is told that the lifespan is a random variable with mean 80 and the standard deviation is 20 years. Using central limit theorem, find the probability that the average lives of 70 persons. So this 70 persons becomes your sample, isn't it? And the entire population has the mean 80 years. So it is like this. We have a specific locality or a community where the average lifespan of the people is 80 years with a deviation of 20 years. So that is the data given for the population. So it becomes very necessary to identify the data first, whether it is belonging to the population or it belongs to the sample. So I'll write the data over here. So it is given to us that the population has mean of 80. So I can say that mu becomes equal to 80. Now students, you need to know the terminology very thoroughly, very properly. Make sure that you have already watched my previous session in which central limit theorem is explained in detail. So the notation mu is used for the mean of the population. So population mean is given to us as 80 and the standard deviation of the population is 20 years. So sigma is given to us as 20 years. So mean, the average life is 80 years and the standard deviation sigma is 20 years. Now let's proceed ahead. He is telling you need to find the probability that the average life of 70 persons. So average life of 70 persons should exceed 85 years. Now try and understand what the question is demanding. The question is asking us to find the probability of those persons so that the average life exceeds 85 years. So I can say X bar should be greater than 85 years. This is what the question is asked. That's your sample. The sample size is 70, isn't it? So for the sample, I can go ahead and write that the average lifespan should exceed 85 years. So let's say X bar is equal to 85 years. Let's say X bar is equal to 85 years. I want to find the probability when X bar is greater than 85. So let's find for first of all 85 years. Further, the sample size n is given to us as 70. So I'm going to write n as 70. Now students, I hope you remember the corollary of the central limit theorem, the Lindbergh-Levy theorem, isn't it? So you should know the corollary. It tells us that a standard normal variant SNV, see all this terminology that I am telling you here, it is already discussed in our previous sessions. Make sure that you watch the previous lectures very properly first. So the standard normal variant, it is denoted by Z, isn't it? And according to the corollary of the Lindbergh-Levy theorem, Z is given by X bar minus mu upon sigma upon root of n. That's the formula for finding the value of Z. So now X bar is given to us as 85. So I'm going to write 85 here. So let's write 85 minus the mu, isn't it? The mean of the population. It is given to us as 80. So I'll write 80 here upon sigma is 20. So that's 20 upon root of n. N is 70. So I'm going to write root of n, which is 70 here. So obviously now I need to calculate this value and to make use of a calculator. So let's get the value over here. We have 85 minus 80, that's 5 divided by 20 upon root of 70. So the value here comes out to be 2.09165. So it's 2.09165. 2.09165. So I can say it is approximately equal to 2.09 and 2, isn't it? So that's a value for Z. Now you need to understand something called as the standard normal curve. This idea has to be very clear in your mind. A standard normal curve. So if you observe a standard normal curve, it always looks like a bell-shaped curve. It is always a bell-shaped curve. And here the mean, the standard normal variate, its mean is always 0. So Z equal to 0 I can say here. And I can write over here that sigma is equal to 1. So this is the place where Z is equal to 0. Now remember this, understand this very carefully, that 50% value lie on the right hand side of this Z equal to 0 and 50% values lie on the left of Z equal to 0. So on this side there are 50% values on the right, and on the left also there are 50% values, isn't it? So when I say here the mean is 0, this is the place where Z is equal to 0, and from here you go on the right hand side, you get 50% values, you go on the left side, you get another 50% of values. Here Z is always greater than 0 on the right, and here Z is less than 0 on the left. Now what is told to us, stand understand, the value of Z is 2.09165. Now remember, you need to make use of the standard normal curve. There is a table that you need to make use of from where you are going to get values for this probability. Now he's telling that Z is 2.092. That means this Z will be lying, let us say, somewhere here. Say this is the place where Z is equal to 2.092. 2.092, and I want to find the probability. I want to find the probability of X bar which is greater than 85. But for X equal to 85, I've got Z as 2.09165. So that means I can say I need to find probability of Z greater than 2.092. Try and understand this very carefully. I want to find the probability of Z greater than 2.092. So this is where Z is 2.092, and I want to find the probability greater than those values. So greater than those values is on the right of Z equal to 2.092. Now, as I said, from Z equal to 0, on the right hand side there are 50% values. Now note this thing very properly. The table that you have, the table will always give values starting from 0.0, and it will keep on going up to 3. The maximum value that the table can give us is 3, and the 50% values, that means the probability will go up to 0.5. To be precise, it goes up to 0.4990. Get the table of area under the standard normal variable, standard normal curve, and you will find that the table has values starting from 0.0 ending at 3.0, and the probability will go up to 0.4990. Now let's move ahead. We need to find what is the value of Z equal to 2.092. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the table. Let's take the table here and try to find the value of 2.092 from the table. Okay students, so now we have this normal curve, area under normal curve. So we have the table. You have to check the value of 2.092 from the table. Now I want to get the value at Z equal to 2.092. So for 2.092, the value given to us is, so you will check for 2.0 below 9, and then mean difference of 2, so that does not count over here. So we are just going to get the value of 2.0 below 9. So 2.0 below 9, the value is 0.5 0.4817. So you need to know how to read the table very properly. So there is a first column where the value of Z is given to us. Go there and check 2.0, and then you have to go under the column of 9 to get the final value. So that's 0.4817. Now I want to understand that from Z equal to 0 till the final value, till the last part of the curve, the entire value is 50%, and the table will always give me value from Z equal to 0 to the particular value of Z. Understand this, the table always gives me the value from Z equal to 0 up to the particular value of Z which is asked or which is given to us. So the value asked or value given was Z equal to 2.092. That means the table will give us all the values starting from 0 up to 2.092. But my question demands a value which are beyond 2.092. So what I'll do is, as the entire value is 50%, isn't it? 0.5 is the probability, entire value is 0.5. So this is actually 0.5 minus probability of Z equal to 2.092. So when I say Z equal to 2.092, it basically means from Z equal to 0 up to 2.092. The value is 0.4817. So I'll write here 0.5 minus 0.4817. So let's very quickly get the value. So I'll do a rough work, 0.500 minus 0.4817. So the value comes, so 10 minus 7, that's 3. Take a carry 1, so 10 minus 2, that becomes 8. Take a carry 1, again 1, here it is. And then again a carry 1 comes, so that's 0.0183. That means the value comes 0.0183. So if you multiply this value by 100, you get 1.83%. So these many people are there in the sample of 70 persons which can have the life expectancy which is more than 85 years. So you got to understand the question very properly. See what I did here. I have made use of the central limit theorem. The formula was available to me. I've got the standard normal variate from there. Our job is to always convert the given x into the standard normal variate, because the table is available only for the standard normal variate. So our main objective is always to transform the given question into standard normal variate. Then according to the question, you have to understand what part of the graph must be taken. In this question, we have to take the graph which was beyond of the value of Z, which was 2.092. So I did 50% values, which is 0.5 minus the value that came for Z equal to 2.092, and I've got the answer as 0.0183. This is the probability within the 70 persons having the life expectancy which will be exceeding 85 years. That means there are only 1.83% of people who might have the life of more than 85 years. So students, I hope that you have understood how this question was solved, isn't it? So we'll be taking few more examples in this session itself. Make sure that you're also noting down the questions simultaneously. So students, now let's begin with the next example. Again, I have written the example on the board. It says that random sample of 100. Now observe carefully, at the beginning of the question itself it is given to us a random sample of 100. That means from here I can very easily conclude that the value of n is 100, isn't it? So the data is given about the sample. So the value of n, the sample size, is given to us 100. Now this sample is taken from a population. So now he's telling about the population. So let's write about the population also. So he is telling that this sample has been taken from a population whose mean is 60. So the population has mean 60. We know that the population mean is denoted by mu. So it is given to us as 60, and variance is 400. Now students, observe carefully, he has given us the variance and not the standard deviation. So we remember that variance and standard deviation, they have a relation between them. We know that variance is actually sigma square, or I can say standard deviation and square. So therefore I can say variance V is equal to sigma square. So sigma comes out to be root of V. So he's telling that the variance is 400. So I can write here root of 400. So sigma comes out to be 20, isn't it? So value of sigma is 20 given to us. So that is about the population. So the sample has the size of 100 and the population has the mean of 60 and standard deviation of 20, isn't it? Now let's move further. What's the next thing he's telling? Using the central limit theorem. So again the question is based on central limit theorem. So we are going to make use of the corollary of the Lindbergh-Levy theorem. So using the central limit theorem, find the probability that the mean of the sample is denoted by x bar, isn't it? So mean of the sample will not differ from mu equal to 60. So not differ, that means the difference of the mean of the sample and the mean of the population should not be more than 4. Now understand carefully, the mean of the sample should be only differing by an amount of 4 then the mean of the population. So mean of the population is 60. So it should differ by 4. So it can either go to 64 or it can come to 56. So both ways the difference is 4. That means to find I can say probability of x bar, isn't it? The difference should be 4. So it should be either greater than 56, isn't it? So difference is still 4, or it should be greater or less than, I should say, 64, isn't it? So this is what I want to find the probability of. The probability of x bar lying between 56 and 64. So at the beginning what I'll do is I'll get the value of x bar is equal to 56 and the value of z, isn't it? So for x bar is equal to 56. Now we all know that the formula for the standard normal variate is given by, I'll write down here, z is equal to x bar minus mu upon sigma upon root of n. We have just now seen this formula, isn't it? It's x bar minus mu upon sigma upon root of n. So here z comes out to be, when x bar is 56, at that time it is going to be 56 minus the value of mu. The value of mu is 60, so I write 60 here, upon sigma. The value of sigma is 20, so I write 20 upon root of n is 100, so I write 100 here. So it simply comes out to be 56 minus 60 is minus 4 upon 20 upon root of 100 is 10, so 20 upon 10, that gives me 2, so the value comes simply minus 2. That means for x bar equal to 56, the value of z came minus 2. Similarly, let's get the value for x bar is equal to 64. So it's now very clear indication that for 64 it is just going to become plus 2, because 56 minus 60 gave me minus 4. 64 minus 60 is going to give me plus 4. So let's write here 64 minus 60 upon obviously 20 upon root of 100. The value simply comes out to be 2. So therefore I can say here that if I want to find the probability of x bar lying from 56 to 64, it is as good as finding the probability of z lying from minus 2 to plus 2. So students, the standard normal curve is a very important curve that we should always remember. So I'm going to draw the curve here, a very simple diagram. It is a bell-shaped curve where at the between z is 0. So when I say z is minus 2, it will be somewhere here. Let us say this is z equal to minus 2, isn't it? This is z equal to minus 2, and over here I can say this is z equal to 2. Now just now I have explained you that there are 50% values on the right of z equal to 0 and 50% values on the left of z equal to 0. I want to find the value of z lying between minus 2 and 2. So this is minus 2 and this is plus 2. I want to find the values lying between them. That means I want to find all these values which are lying between minus 2 and plus 2. Now students, to get this answer, let's see what has to be done. So this becomes equal to probability of z equal to minus 2 plus probability of z equal to plus 2. We know that the standard normal curve will always run from z equal to 0 up to the value which is given to us, z equal to 2. So both the places z equal to -2 and z equal to 2, the curve is symmetric, isn't it? So values are going to be same, and the table will always provide the values only for positive values of z. The table always gives the values only for the positive values of z. So z equal to -2 and z equal to 2, both are giving me the same answer. Both of them are going to give me the same answer. So I'll write simply 2 into probability of z equal to 2. That means I can say from z equal to 0 to z equal to whatever the answer is there. That means I will focus on only this part of the curve. So here again I'm going to make use of the table. So you should know how to make use of the table. The first column is the column of z, and you have to check the value of z equal to 2. So for z equal to 2, the value comes out to be 0.4772. Below 0 I have checked it, so it is 0.4772. So I'll write here 2 into 0.4772. Students, I hope you have understood why that 2 has come. I have to write the value of z equal to -2 as well as z equal to +2. Now z equal to -2, the table is not going to provide me the values. You have to find the value of z equal to 2 only, isn't it? So z equal to 2 is obtained 2 number of times, hence this multiplication by 2 has come. So my answer is simply going to become, so 2 to z is 4, then 14, so carry 1, 14 and 1 15, so again carry 1. So 0.9544 is the probability of the sample having the mean not differing more than 4, isn't it? So the samples will be having a probability of 95.44%. When you multiply it by 100, it is going to give me 95.44%. That means there are 95.44% amount of values which will be having a mean which is not going to differ by 4, more than 4. So the mean is going to lie between 56 and 64. So this is how the question is solved for this particular part. So I hope you have understood this question. Make sure that you have noted down the question very thoroughly. We are again going to see one more problem on this particular type. So students, let's move on to one more question. Now this question is slightly different from the previous two questions. Now what the difference is, let's observe it. The question states that if x1, x2, x3 and so on up to xn are Poisson's variates. Now in the previous two questions that we have seen, the variates were normal variates. They were independent variates. Here the question is telling that the variates given to us are Poisson's variate. Now there is one very important concept about the Poisson's variates or the Poisson's distribution that you should be knowing. For Poisson's distribution, students, remember this, that the mean and the variance for a Poisson's distribution, the mean and the variance for a Poisson's distribution is equal, and that is equal to the given parameter. It is equal to the given parameter. So in our case, in our question, it is told to us that the x1, x2, x3 and so on are Poisson's variates with what parameter? Parameter is given to us as lambda equal to 3. That means for the given variates, the mean and the variance, both of them are 3. So mean and variance is now known to me for the given variates. Further, he's telling me use central limit theorem. Now we know what the central limit theorem is, isn't it? We have seen the two definitions. We know the Lyapunov form, we know the Lindbergh-Levy theorem, isn't it? So we are going to make use of the Lindbergh-Levy theorem for this particular question. Remember that whenever you get Poisson's variates, it always becomes more important to remember which method has to be used. We will be using the Lindbergh-Levy theorem for solving this particular question. So remember this point very properly. So now, using the central limit theorem, we have to estimate the probability of Sn lying between 180 to 250. Usually here we had x, isn't it? X, or you can say x bar. So the range of x bar was given to us in the previous question. So that is a second point that you need to check on the difference, isn't it? The previous questions and this question. The difference is here, it is Sn. Here we have Poisson's variate. So in place of x, we have Sn. Further, it is told to us that Sn is given by what? The sum of the variates, x1 plus x2 plus x3 and so on. Now students, as I said, that I'll be using the Lindbergh-Levy theorem to solve this particular question. So you should be aware of what the theorem is. Make sure that you have definitely watched the previous session, because without those definitions, you won't be able to understand how I'm going to solve this question. So the Lindbergh-Levy theorem gives us what? It tells us that x1, x2, x3 and so on, if they are variates given to us, and they should be independent variants and they should be identical variants, isn't it? So independent and identical variates, then I can say x1 plus x2 plus x3 and so on up to xn. This is given by x bar upon n, isn't it? So this becomes our new variant, and for this the mean, this is our normal variant, isn't it? This is a normal variant, and for the given question the normal variant is denoted by Sn. So x bar is like Sn for us. So for this, whenever you get the Limburg-Levy theorem, x bar is given as x1 plus x2 plus x3 up to xn, then the mean is given by n mu, isn't the mean is given by n mu, and the variance, if you recall, it is given by n into sigma square. So this point has to be remembered. So whenever you get a question where the Poisson variates are involved, you should make use of the Limburg-Levy theorem straight away. It states us that the normal variant is now given by x bar is equal to x1 plus x2 and so on up to xn divided by n. The mean is given by n mu and the variance is given by n into sigma square. For the given question, we already know that for the given variates, the parameter is lambda equal to 3. So therefore I can say, it is already written here, mean and variance, both of them are going to become equal to 3. We also know that the normal variant z, the basic formula for the normal variant z, is given by x minus m upon sigma. M is the mean, x is the variant, isn't it? And sigma is the standard deviation, isn't it? It is a standard deviation. So in our case, the x is actually Sn, isn't it? So I'm going to write here Sn minus m, the mean, it is given by n mu, the mean is n mu, upon sigma is nothing but, so if you know variance is equal to sigma square, we all know that, isn't it? So sigma becomes equal to root of the variance, so I can write root of n into sigma square. So that becomes a formula for finding z. Now we know that the value of mean is 3 and n is a sample size. The sample size is 70 here. We know that the sample size is 70. So I'm going to write the sample size 70 over here. So the formula becomes now Sn minus sample size is 70. So that's 70 into 3. Let's get this value separately. N into mu. So n is 70 into mu is 3. So that becomes 210. So I can write here 210 divided by root of, so n into sigma square. Students, the value of sigma square, the variance is also 3. The variance is also given to us as 3. We remember that variance is nothing but sigma square. So the value of sigma square is also 3, and n, as you know, it is 70. So it also becomes 210, isn't it? So z has become Sn minus 210 upon root of 210. So now I'm going to get the value of z for Sn equal to 180 and Sn equal to 250, because I want to find the probability of Sn lying between 180 and 250. So then I can say for Sn is equal to 180. Let's get the value of z. So z becomes equal to 180 minus 210 upon root of 210. So I'll need a calculator. So I'll be using a calculator to get this value. So the value comes, students, 180 minus 210 divided by root of 210. So that's root of 210. The value came minus of 2.07. The value came minus of 2.07. So I'll write here minus of 2.07. Let's get the value of z for Sn equal to 250, because we have to get the range, isn't it? So now if I write for Sn is equal to 250, I get z is equal to 250 minus 210 upon again root of 210. So let's calculate this value also using a calculator. Let's get this value. So that's 240 minus 210, which is 40, divided by root of 210. So the answer that comes is 2.76. So I'm going to write the value as 2.76 here. So the value came 2.76. So therefore, students, I can now say that the probability of Sn lying between 180 to to 250 is actually probability of Z lying from, so for 180 the value came minus 2.07, so I write minus 2.07, minus 2.07, and for 250 the value came 2.76, the value came 2.76. So this actually is now, so value of Z is lying between minus 2.07 to 2.76. This can be now broken into two parts. So probability of Z from 0 to minus of 2.07 and plus probability of Z greater than 0 but less than 2.76. So if you again make our usual standard normal curve, 2.07, it will lie somewhere here, let us say, negative side, isn't it? So it is minus of 2.07, minus of 2.07, and on the right side we have to go up to 2.76. Now see, these are two different values. These are not same values, not identical values, so you have to solve them separately. So again we know that the negative value, the table, the standard normal table does not give us any negative values. It will always give us only positive values. So from minus 2.07 to 0, minus 2.07 to 0 is same as 0 to 2.07. So this basically becomes probability of Z equal to 2.07, and the other value becomes probability of Z equal to 2.76. Now let's make use of the table, isn't it? We will make use of the table, the standard normal curve table, and we will get the area under the curve. So for Z equal to 2.07, students, for Z equal to 2.07, the value comes out to be 0.4808. So for 2.07, the value is 0.4808. So I'll write here 0.4808. You should be having the table of area under the standard normal curve. Without this table you won't be knowing how this value are obtained. And for 2.76 students, the value for 2.76, the value for 2.76 is coming 0.4971. 0.4971. So when you add these values, let's see what you're going to get. So 8 plus 1, that's 9, and then 7, and then 9 and 8 is 17 again, so that's 7, carry 1 and 9, so 0.9779, or I can say 97.79% is the probability, isn't it, for the given question. So the question was what? That Sn has to lie between 180 to 250 for the given sample size of 70. So in the given sample size of 70, there is a chance of 97.79% that the value lies between 180 to 250. So students, this was the different question that we have seen from the previous two problems, isn't it? Here the question involved Poisson's variates. So make sure that you have understood this question also. There was slight changes in this problem. So these are a few of the questions that we have taken to understand the central limit theorem. I hope you have understood the concept as well as the questions they have been taken on central limit theorem. Make sure to practice some more questions. I have done my best to cover all the types of central limit theorem. I hope you will be doing this very properly. I thank you all for watching this lecture. You all have a great day ahead.